we're going to go to our guest now, who is Bill Mitchell, host of Your Voice Radio at yourvoiceradio.com. And as I said beforehand, consistently listed as one of the top influencers on social media during this election cycle. Again, you can go to his Twitter account. He's posted the impressions that he gets for his tweets alone. It's almost at 200 million every month at this point. And it's the same with a lot of people, Cernovich, myself. We're absolutely crushing them to the point now where Hillary Clinton's tweets get less retweets than ours, despite the fact that she's got national attention and 10 million plus followers. That's how we're winning the narrative on social media. Of course, he's also an expert on the polls, which we're going to delve into. Bill, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you? Nice to finally meet you face-to-face, sort of.
Good to speak to you. Now, I wanted to get into the polls straight away because, of course, that's your primary focus. We've seen in many of them, at first they tried to claim that there was very little shift. But after the FBI announcement, for example, you know, this ABC poll today, we've got, what, a 12, 13-point shift away from people supporting Hillary. In the numbers we've seen so far since the FBI announcement, is this shift in support towards Trump quantifiable? Do you think it could be what tips things in Trump's favor come November the 9th?
You know, I've been saying all along that this is a change election. We have approximately 72% of the electorate that is unhappy with the direction of this country. This is very similar to 1980. And I've been saying all along that all of the polls, all of the debates, all the ads, all the gotchas and scandals, in the end, really don't matter as much as the fact that in a change election, the change candidate wins, period. And in this election, Donald Trump is the change candidate. And what we've had in this race is a very high level of undecideds, even within a week or two of the election, 16 points undecided. And what happens in a change election, and this happened in 1980 as well, in the final week, those undecideds go towards the challenger. And the challenger in this case is Trump. The status quo candidate is Hillary. So I think that what's happening with this FBI thing is everybody saying, oh, it's the FBI thing is changing everything. I think it was changing anyway. I think the FBI thing doesn't hurt. It's sort of the icing on the cake. It ties a bow around it. But, you know, I really believe that this was taking place anyway. And we've seen in this election cycle some very strange sampling. If you look back at 2008, for instance, in the primaries, the Democrats had a turnout that was approximately D+8 over the Republicans. So they had about 8% more turnout than the Republicans did. Apologize, I thought I had turned this off. Forgive me. Apologize for that. Okay, but anyway, the Democrats had about 8% more turnout in the primaries than the Republicans did in 2008. In the general election, they had about 7% more turnout. So there was a correlation between the primary turnout and the general election turnout. Then back in 2000, under Bush, it was almost the same. Very similar. Republicans had slightly higher turnout in the primaries. They had slightly higher turnout in the general election. This time, Republicans had a +1 turnout over Democrats in the primaries. Okay, we had about 1 million votes more in the primaries than Democrats. And it was actually higher than that because Trump wrapped up the nomination a month before Hillary did. So if our nomination process had gone on as long as Hillary's did, it would have been even greater, okay? So if we go back with the same correlation that we had in 2000 and 2008 between the primaries and the general, we should be looking at polls with maybe R+0, R+1, D+1 samples. Instead, for instance, this ABC poll has a D+10 sample. That's 3 points better than Obama experienced in 2008 when he had a landslide. 70,000 people at his rallies, sold out his merchandise, dominated social media, had a best-selling book, had people fainting at his rallies. I mean, there was all this visible empirical evidence on the ground that Obama was dominating. Hillary has none of that, and yet pollsters are factoring in a victory in a landslide higher than Obama experienced, despite the fact that we won the primary battle. So I've been saying all along, folks, and they know this on the Democrat side, this is not a D plus 10 election. This is not a D plus 8 election. At the most, this is a D plus 0 to D plus 2 election. And take all these polls right now that are either tied or with Hillary winning and apply a D plus 0 or a D plus 2 sample to those, and Trump wins every one, some of them by a lot. And that's the reality of this election right now.
So you're saying this argument that there are likely to be 8-9% more Democrats voting is completely disproven by the primaries. Why do you think they do this? Is it just that's what they've always done? Or are they trying to instruct, are they trying to manipulate public opinion to the point where, you know, Trump voters think, well, this is a losing battle, Trump has no chance of winning, so we're not going to bother to vote? Is it, I mean, we saw that referenced in the WikiLeaks, didn't we? So are they doing it deliberately to form this kind of narrative that Hillary's victory is inevitable?
Yeah, I think so. I think what they were trying for is they realized that Hillary is a very weak candidate here. She is a status quo candidate when the electorate is unhappy with the status quo. She can't really get out on the campaign trail. And campaign, what is she supposed to do? You know, campaign as a change candidate at the same time praising Obama, you know. It's a real problem here. So what they were trying to do is they were trying to go for an early knockout. It's like a boxing match where if you are not as good of a boxer as the person you're up against, you go out swinging for haymakers, looking for the early knockout so that, you know, you can take them out early, because they knew that Hillary would never survive a 15-round match against Trump. And because of social media and guys like yourself, guys like me, guys like Cernovich, because we have balanced out the media and kept everybody off the ledge, we've survived through 15 rounds, and now the points are adding up in our favor, and we're going to win the victory.
And again, we keep hearing the question over and over again. There's so much enthusiasm behind Trump, thousands and thousands of people. In fact, I think that the attendees at the Pence rallies outnumbered those for Kaine and Clinton combined. Yeah. So much enthusiasm, so seemingly little enthusiasm behind Hillary. But I mean, I posted a meme yesterday which said, you know, the problem isn't that Hillary's an unethical, corrupt, lying criminal dirtbag. Everyone knows that. The problem is that her supporters don't care. I mean, do Hillary supporters care? What do the polls show, for example, about how many Hillary-leaning supporters care about the corruption, care about this FBI investigation? Is it going to deter them from voting for her?
Well, you know, I wanted to point out something in what you just said about the rally size that a lot of people don't get. It's a deeper thing to that, is that in 2008, Obama had huge rallies, okay, big rallies. In not 2008, I take that back. 2008, sorry. Okay. 2012, he didn't. Okay, so what was the difference? Well, in 2008, there were a lot of people that were new to the process, young people, black voters that had not voted before, that were new to the process. They wanted to experience it. They wanted to be out there. They wanted to go to the rallies. They wanted to see it. In 2008 or 2012, he didn't have big rallies anymore, even though he's the same guy, because most of his voters were experienced voters, old hat voters. So what we're seeing right now, we keep talking about the monster vote in this election. This is the 20 million people that were registered to vote in 2012. It didn't. It's the millions more than that were eligible to vote and aren't even registered. So millions and millions of voters out there. And what we're seeing is that Trump's rallies are so big because so many people going to those rallies are first-time voters, just like Obama experienced in 2008. Because old hat experienced voters don't tend to go out to rallies and stuff like that. Yeah, I've heard it. I can watch it on TV. They don't feel the need to experience it, you know? So what we're seeing in these huge rallies for Trump is all this enthusiasm of what's called the monster vote. And what's key about the monster vote is nobody is polling it because nobody knows who it is. Now, there is one poll that shows us who the monster vote is. That's the primary turnout. And all the pollsters are ignoring that. Okay, so not only are they oversampling Democrats in these polls, they're undersampling the monster vote because they say, well, we can't know what it is. Because when they call you for a poll, when they're trying to do a likely voter screen, they say, have you voted in the last 2 elections? No. Okay, you're not a likely voter. Well, that excludes all the monster vote. Okay, so not only are they oversampling Democrats, they're undersampling the monster vote. So we're setting ourselves up for a tremendous win here for Trump that, I mean, could, you know, shake the political landscape for a long time.
There's another aspect to this which ties into what you were talking about. Of course, Brexit. Immediately before the Brexit vote, the Remain camp was 4 points ahead. The exit polls had them ahead. They were all over the news bragging that it was over within minutes. We know what happened. Brexit won by numerous million votes, comfortable margin in the end. Is there an aspect to this where, you know, they phone up Trump supporters, they ask, how are you going to vote? And purely through a kind of social stigma alone, many Trump supporters don't want to state on the phone or in public that they're going to vote for Trump, but actually, when it comes down to it, they're going to vote for Trump. Is that a significant amount of people? Is this social stigma thing an actual phenomenon that you think could have an impact?
Sure. I think they call it the shy Tory effect, where people didn't want to say what they really thought. There's a certain amount of that. One of the big problems with polling right now is they call it scientific polling because it's supposed to be a scientifically random sample. But the problem is that there is a response bias that's taking place in polling now that basically means that there are no random samples out there. There are no scientific polls anymore. Back when Reagan was running for office, you got about a 45 or 50 or 60% response rate, meaning the pollster would call your house, you'd answer the phone, and you'd respond to the poll. That made the poll much more scientific. But now the response rate is about 8 or 9%. That means it's no longer scientific because you have an extra added layer in there called a response bias, where you don't know who's not answering the phone. You don't know who's not answering your poll when they get on there. A lot of people now are very paranoid about identity theft. So if a total stranger calls you and starts asking you all these personal questions, you're much more likely to, either not answer or to give the safe, politically correct answers because you don't want, some government agency come knocking on your door being sent out by Hillary Clinton that you spoke against her. So there's all that going on and all these different biases going on, which shows that polling is broken. And just to add one thing, here's a perfect example. Investors Business Daily does a poll. It's been very successful the last 3 cycles. But a lot of people think that, well, if they're doing the polls and they're getting these D+10, D+8 samples, then that's just what they're getting. And maybe they're telling us that the electorate really is heavily Democrat. But one thing I like about the IDBD poll is they not only give you the weighted sample, they give you the unweighted sample. They give you the raw numbers. And in their raw numbers for the last week and a half, every single poll, they have had an R+ sample in the raw sample, meaning when they're just calling people randomly, they're getting more Republicans answering than Democrats. It's been anywhere from R+0 to R+5. I think it was R+5 yesterday. Okay. So this is showing the electorate is moving right. It's a Republican sample out there. In every single instance, they have reweighted it to a D+7 to D+8 sample. So what they're doing is, for instance, they had an R+5 sample, they reweighted it to D+7. That's a 12-point gift to Hillary just to give her a 1 or 2 point lead. I'm telling you. And they're doing it, I think, people say, is this a conspiracy? Probably. I mean, look at what we've seen in WikiLeaks. All these pollsters, all these different groups conspiring together to try to win this thing. So, yeah, I think it could be a conspiracy with the pollsters and the DNC.
Well, exactly. It came out in the WikiLeaks that it is a tactic that they formulated to, again, convince people that Hillary Clinton's doing a lot better than she is. Of course, after the first debate, we also saw this in the post-debate polls with CNN. I think it was 26% Republicans versus something like 42% Democrats. The first debate was ridiculously overweighted in favor of Democrats. Of course, after every single debate, the CNN ORC poll said that Hillary Clinton won comfortably, even though the immediate reaction to the second debate, at least, was that Trump crushed her, even amongst, some anti-Trump people, right?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. As people always criticize these flash polls, these post-debate flash polls like the Drudge poll and all these others, they say, well, it's not scientific. Well, none of them are scientific, but they say it's not scientific because it's not a random sample. Well, none of them are random samples. But when you get a 95-5 win for Trump on these, let's say, for instance, the Drudge poll, what you got to remember is that poll is available to everybody. There is no barrier to entry to that poll. And unless you're willing to go through a lot of things with clearing your cookies and all this stuff on your browser, you can only vote once. Each person can only vote once because it records your IP address and it doesn't allow you to vote twice. So this is a big win for Trump in these polls. Now, does that mean that Trump is going to win 95-5? No. But what it does do is it measures enthusiasm. It measures energy, because that means those Trump supporters were energetic enough to go out there and to vote in that poll, and the Hillary voters were not that energetic. And you see that in the, for instance, in the Republican primaries, I believe there were 12 debates. I think Trump only went to 11. Out of those, I believe that the scientific polls only had him winning one debate out of all of those. And yet the online flash polls had him winning every one. And guess who was the nominee 3-1? Trump. Okay. So the flash polls don't predict actual real numbers, but they do predict direction. They do predict enthusiasm. And enthusiasm really pays when it comes time to who the likely voter is. And a brand new poll just came out with People's Pundit Daily. No, it wasn't. No, this was the ABC poll. The ABC poll, in just the last week, the enthusiasm for Trump has gone to a 7-point lead. I'm telling you, and they're still polling D plus 10. They're in for a big shock. They're in for a big shock.
The Rasmussen poll came out immediately after and said, the FBI announcement has had no effect on this. But then you drill down into it, and only on October 30 was one of the days where they did the poll. The other dates were before the FBI even made the announcement. Oh. But again, with the debate polls, of course, they say, oh, well, that's trolls. That's the Russians who are voting for Trump. Well, Hillary's campaign admittedly paid trolls to go out on the internet and shill for her. That's a documented fact. So fine, there are trolls on Trump's side, but there are trolls on Hillary's side as well. I wanted to ask you in the final minute of this segment, we've got O'Keefe. He's got a new bombshell video set to drop. We've got WikiLeaks entering phase 3 of their release. On the flip side, we've got speculation, about 9 hours of recordings of private Trump conversations. Do you think the behavior, the mannerism of the Clinton camp suggests that they do have some more dirt to release on Trump, or are they all out of ammo at this point?
I think, this is what I think, and Rush confirmed this today, and we've seen this from some other people. I think that the Democrat leadership has decided that they are actually better off with Trump winning this election. I know this sounds like a bombshell, but this is what I think. They're better off with Trump winning this election because they do not believe Trump will be a good president. Okay, they think he'll be a bad president. And they're not as afraid of it. You know what they're really afraid of? They're not that afraid of Trump. They're afraid of us. We're the movement. They're afraid of the movement. They want to kill the movement, okay? They're not worried about killing Trump. They want to kill the movement. And I think what they've decided is that the Clinton brand is so damaged at this point because it's not just the Hillary, but also the Clinton Foundation that's going to be having problems going forward, that they're better off with a Trump presidency and then try to destroy him as president and run somebody new, a new Barack Obama in 2020 and try to win back Congress in 2018.
We'll be back. Stick with that thought, Bill. We are back to the final segment of the Alex Jones Show. Before we go back to our guest, Bill Mitchell, just want to tell you about our other special at InfoWarsStore.com. It's the Pro Pure G2.0 King Gravity Water Filter. 30% off at InfoWarsStore.com. This is the flagship Pro Pure all-in-one gravity water filter. 30% off for a limited time at InfoWarsStore.com. It removes heavy metals, pesticides, herbicides, pharmaceutical, drug contaminants, fluoride, and so much more from your tap water. We've got lab results at InfoWarsStore.com. We've got 5-star independent reviews. Everybody's using a water filter at this point. Get our Pro Pure 2.0 King Gravity Water Filter for 30% off at InfoWarsStore.com. And again, all your support goes to building this platform, to challenging the mainstream media directly. We couldn't have done it without you for the past, near 2 decades. So we really encourage and appreciate your support by getting the products at InfoWarsStore.com. Going back to our guest here in a final couple of minutes, Bill Mitchell, you were talking before the break. Does the Democratic Party actually have it in their plans to sacrifice Hillary Clinton because they fear she could damage their brand to such a degree? I mean, we saw this with the British Labour Party back in the late 70s. They didn't get back into power for 18, 19 years based on a similar concern about damaging the brand. We see that now with Jeremy Corbyn to some extent. Finish up your quotes that you were saying before the break about, could they be holding back? Could they be sacrificing Hillary so as not to damage the brand of the Democratic Party?
I think they could be. We have some evidence like Barack Obama coming out and supporting Comey and what he's doing with releasing this email investigation. Also, the New York Times printing an article exonerating Trump from having any connections to Russia. I mean, these are very unusual things to be doing. Also, there seems to be some evidence out there amongst major players Obama, Michelle Obama, Barack Obama, where it appears, at least in their Twitter feeds, that they may have unfollowed Hillary. I don't want to say that for sure, but there seems to be some evidence of that. So,
well, Michelle Obama's just deleted all her tweets since 2013 by the looks of it. So that's interesting what's going on there.
Yeah, she has her own Flotus account, which is her primary personal account, and then she has one that's sort of a super PAC account, and they're the ones that the super PAC account is the ones that deleted the tweets since 2013. But here's my thinking on this: that the Democrats are saying, you know, this Clinton brand is getting a little stale. It's a little worn out. And not only is Hillary Clinton under FBI investigation, but the Clinton Foundation is as well. And I understand that the FBI sought a grand jury against the Clinton Foundation, and the Department of Justice turned them down. So Hillary Clinton would be starting her presidency under a major cloud that would be very difficult for them and would empower us. See, they're worried about us. They're worried about the movement, and that would empower us. We would have an even bigger voice against them. And then if Hillary ended up getting indicted or she ended up being impeached, then that would be dramatically bad for them. Now, flip the tables here. Let's say they let Trump win. They don't do any of their cheats. They don't do any of the hacks that you guys were talking about on another show. They allow Trump to win. They throw Hillary under the bus, okay? Then what we can look at is that what's going to happen when Trump becomes president. Okay, they can become the opposition party. They can fight him every step of the way. They can use the media to try to make it look like everything he's doing is failing. Also, we're looking at a major stock market correction when Trump becomes president, because so much of the stock market is based upon these 0% interest rates that are ridiculous. You know, Trump
it's amazing, Bill. We've run out of time. We'll be sure to get you back on. But again, amazing revelations, Bill. We will get you back on. It's yourvoiceradio.com and search for Bill Mitchell on Twitter. He's absolutely killing it. Again, 200 million impressions. He is the go-to guy when it comes to these polls. That's going to wrap it up for the Alex Jones Show. Be sure to join us again. Breaking news at Infowars.com.